This is Dan Dicks here reporting for Press for Truth. We're here in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia, and I'm joined right now by Eva Vlaardingerbroek. Thank you so much, first of all, for speaking with us here at Press for Truth. Now, I'm sure a lot of viewers of this channel are probably going to first be wondering, what brings you to Canada?
Well, I got invited by the lovely ladies of Trinity Productions to join Christine Anderson, who's obviously a wonderful MEP from Germany, on her speaking tour. So it's my first time in Canada, and I'm really excited to be here. I felt like closely connected to the Canadians and the truckers convoy because, as maybe some of your viewers might know, I've been very involved with the Dutch farmers protests, and they were kind of similar, like in nature. And we looked at the Freedom Convoy here, and we're inspired by you guys, so I'm very happy to be here.
Well, I've heard some commentators refer to you as the Shieldmaiden of the far right, so I figured you might be a good one to ask about this. Now, we've got a new president in Argentina who's right-leaning. We've got a new prime minister in the Netherlands who also seems to be what some would say on the far right. It seems like this pendulum is swinging from the left back to the right. Yeah. What do you attribute this to? Why is this happening now?
The thing is, I actually don't think that the people that they are calling far right are far right. I don't consider myself to be far right, but it was something that was immediately, like a label that was immediately put on me when I started speaking out against the consequence of mass migration, when I started speaking out about, the obliteration of our constitutional rights, etc. And if that makes me far right, then so be it, And I feel like that's sort of the sentiment that a lot of people have nowadays. Like, the intimidation game has lost its power. It's like, okay, you want to call me far right for having perfectly normal opinions, and sure, maybe the first time that happens to you, you're like, oh, that's not great, and you want to defend yourself against it. And now, I've decided to kind of run with it. I'm like, well, fine, have it your way.
Well, you're standing on issues that they are saying are pinning you to be far right. Like you said, things like immigration, and obviously this is turning to be a big deal in Europe. We just saw some riots in Dublin over some apparently some stabbings that took place. What are your thoughts on some of that? And is this why we're seeing some of the kind of response to right now?
Sure, yeah. I mean, the stabbing in Dublin, it's not the first time at all that we've had a migrant come into any of our countries really in Europe and stab random people, stab children, stab women or elderly. Usually they go for, easy targets, so to say. And the list of people who were sacrificed on the altar of multiculturalism or diversity is endless, and you would never hear about it really in the media because they would like to cover that up, obviously. Because God forbid that people know the truth and actually hold the establishment accountable for their policies. Well, the thing is, it's become so frequent now that it's hard to hide, and people have gone out to protest, and that's what you're seeing in Ireland. It's just people are fed up with it.
Yeah. We're actually starting to see a great deal of censorship happen, too, for people who do speak out about this stuff. I don't know if you saw that yesterday, Tommy Robinson was arrested. Now, he's a bit of a controversial figure, but I think he was simply just for his presence at being at a pro-Palestinian rally was arrested. What are your thoughts on that? I don't know if you heard about that.
Yeah, I heard about it. I saw the video. I think he had like 20 police officers or something surrounding him and taking him away. Like, I don't even care if Tommy Robinson is considered radical or not. Like, he was just out there, on the street. As far as I know, he wasn't committing any crimes at all. And I don't think that being outside breathing is a crime. It used to, actually, there was a time that it was a crime if you were unvaccinated, by the way, in Austria, of all places. But other than that, I don't think that that's usually a crime in the so-called free West. So I think that's ridiculous, and everyone, no matter what their political, viewpoint is, should speak out about that.
Now, in Canada, we recently had an incident happen at the Rainbow Bridge border crossing. It turned out to be a total accident. But it turns out, I don't know if you heard about this one as well, but it turns out a lot of people who were kind of on the right, Fox News, other right-leaning news pundits, kind of jumped on the Islamic extremism, this must be jihad type of bandwagon. What do you think? And it turned out not to be true. It was just an accident. Is there, something to be said about sometimes people maybe reporting a little too quickly or overreacting in that sense?
Well, I will say that I don't know anything about the particular event that you're talking about, so I can't really, give any comment on that specific subject. Well, I mean, if that even were the case, that people overreact nowadays, it's been underreported for so long that I understand that reflex. In the Netherlands and anywhere, I think in Europe, the sort of the go-to term that people went with when we had Islamic extremism in our streets was, oh, that's just a confused individual. A confused individual that would be shouting Allah Akbar right before stabbing someone doesn't seem that confused to me, like it was a cover-up term. And I think that that's something that people are so sick and tired of that maybe the pendulum swings, but then it would be one against like a trillion times that they tried to hide the truth, right? So,
well, I would say we are seeing the Islamification of the West. I think there is a caliphate being built, but some would say that organizations like Al-Qaeda, like ISIS, like even Hamas, maybe even Hezbollah, are creations of the West, of people like the Mossad, the CIA, the FBI, criminal elements within these intelligence communities. Have you heard of that idea? And what are your thoughts on that? That a lot of this may be coming from the intelligence communities, criminal elements within the CIA, setting up organizations like that?
Yeah, I've heard of these types of stories. I mean, I think that you need to follow the money, obviously. So I think it's important that people do look for ties with the West. There might be some, I think obviously there are globalist powers that do in fact want mass migration, that benefit from the divide and conquer strategy. Of course. The thing is though is, with the people who've been committing terror attacks in Europe, there were a lot of cases of people who were either lone wolves or who subscribed to a certain group. The question I think that should be asked, though, in general is, does Islam belong in Europe? And does radical Islam belong in Europe in the way that we've seen it now in the West, and to the extent that we are seeing now? And that is a question in and of itself to answer, no matter where exactly the ties are, on the extremes of, like, let's say the Taliban, for example.
Right. Now, here in Canada, I don't know if it's the same where you're from, but they're pushing this idea of Islamophobia is this real big issue, and it's a real cause for concern here, when I think it's a bit of a nothing burger. I don't see any evidence of it. Do you see similar things happening in Europe where they're screaming about Islamophobia? Do you see that as well when it doesn't even seem to exist?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's been like the go-to term, apart from that you're a Nazi or fascist or far right. Or, it's like one of those things that they put on you when you express concern about these things. And I'm like, I don't think that it's so weird also to be afraid of a religion that, is used by some people and shouted out, like, again, the phrase Allah Akbar right before committing terror attacks. It's not, I haven't forgotten about those days, especially around the year 2019, when we were seeing tons of terror attacks all the time. 2014 to 2019 in Europe was a mess. I haven't forgotten about that. So I don't, it's just one of those terms that they try to put on you so that you shut up about what you're seeing.
So I guess just in closing, some maybe final thoughts on this. Where do you think we, as a movement, because you're here in Canada, kind of bringing like-minded people together at speaking events, where would you like to see the right, the left, all of this go in the near future?
Well, I mean, my motto in life is resist much, obey little, and I think that that's a motto that we all should have because, as I said yesterday in my speech, although I see true hopeful signs, I don't put all of my solace or hope in the political system. Obviously, I don't think that's a wise bet, so to say. But what I do think is really, really hopeful is that so many people are going out to now vote for far right parties. That they actually are like, okay, I don't care anymore about being called that. That's a good sign. That shows you that the people have had enough. And if everybody stops being afraid of being, slandered or being called a radical or whatnot, then they can put that to practice in their own lives as well, not just in the voting booth, And I think knowing for a lot of people, knowing that 1 in 4 Dutch people went to vote for this far-right nationalist party, it's like you walk through the streets a little differently. You're like, oh, okay, one of you 4 is one of
Right.
you're one of us, and that's different from feeling like you are a complete outsider, like a fringe minority, with radical ideas. So I think, yeah, we should take those wins and be happy about them, and sort of draw from that hope rather than just be, in a doomer state.
Yeah, true. I mean, it's obviously a step in the right direction. Pardon the pun, right? But it's a step in the right direction, indeed. So is there? Where do you think is the best place for people to go online? You got a large Twitter account. Is there anywhere else where people should go if they want to learn more from you?
For now, it's definitely on Twitter, or X right now. So I have an Instagram profile, but Twitter is the place for me, and I'm trying to expand that. Will hopefully be done in the near future, but for now, X is the place. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I'll encourage people to check that out. I'll put a link in the top of the description below. Be sure you guys check it out if you want to learn more from her. And Eva, thank you so much for taking some time to speak with us here today.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for talking to me.
We all want truth. The truth will set you free.